Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Saturday Morning Comic Review. I am your host, Dylan Wallace. Today, we got a great issue for you guys. 10 books that we will be reviewing for today. It is a standard issue as well, so we'll have the pulls from this week. We'll have the pulls for next week also coming up. I'll say this week is a banger. There were a lot of really good books. Going into the week, I already knew that would be the case, but some of the books that I thought would just be middle of the road, I think kind of punched above its weight class, which is pretty cool. And we have a surprising pick of the week for me. It's not one of our usual suspects, so we'll just have to wait and see what exactly that was. But other than that, I really don't have anything on the news side of things. It's just kind of going to be a standard episode, so let's just go ahead and get right into it. So we'll start off here. If I flip over to the polls, of course, audio listeners, I'll go through everything for you guys so you can know exactly what I'm reading for this week. And then for the video folks, you can obviously see it on the screen. But before we do that, let's just talk about the picks of the week thus far. As you guys are well aware, I use League of Comic Geeks in order to figure out, what books to pull and keep everything all organized and so on and so forth. So the top 5 here, we have The Ultimates, number 13, Absolute Flash, number 4, Invincible Universe, Battle Beast, number 2, The New Gods, number 7, and Exquisite Corpses, number 2. So I have pulled 4 of those 5 books, and I read all of them as well. So we'll review all of them. We'll see whether or not they were my pick of the week or maybe something else. But, looking at that, I thought that was be about the order that I would imagine it. Maybe Exquisite Corpses, I was thinking a little higher because the first one was so incredibly good. But 19% means a lot of fragmentation throughout, right? Like some of these more recent weeks, we've seen 30s. I think last week was the pick of the week was on the 40s, which is the highest I've ever seen. But this is more of a typical week that you tend to see where it's just a nice kind of smooth decline from book to book. So yeah, let's go into those polls. And if you watched the previous Saturday episode where I talked about the polls, there are actually a couple of additional ones on here. So there's one that I just completely missed that was a preview I forgot to add. But then there's another where, I've mentioned that I've been paring down some of these polls, but you still get one additional book at the end from the shop. And so Rat City, for example, is the one that's on here, and I just didn't have it on the pull list, but that is going to be the final copy. And so now the list is actually 13, which is totally fine, appropriate. That's kind of the sweet spot that I want to be in. So that made picking up the books perfect for the budget, which is awesome. And similar to previous weeks where I read most of the pulls from this week, I'll just go ahead and say the ones that I haven't read. That way, we kind of just cut down the time. It just sounds a little smoother. So if I'm not saying anything about it, assume that I read it and we are reviewing it. So we have Absolute Flash, number 4, Avengers 27, Bug Wars, number 5, Emma Frost, The White Queen. So that's going to be a backlog. That's one that I was missing from the previews previously. Exquisite Corpses, number 2, G.I. Joe, number 8, Iron Man, number 9, The New Gods, number 7, Rat City 15, that's the other one that was missing, and that is going to be on the Omega run. The Ultimates 13, West Coast Avengers, number 8, X-Men 18, and X-Men 18 is a backlog, and then Zatanna, number 5. So majority of these we're reading for today, which makes sense, right? So if we're reviewing 10, we had 13, only 3 of them are not going to be reviewed. There's two other books I picked up. Sister Imperator, that's going to be on the Omega run, and this She Hikaru, which was just kind of like an interesting one-shot that looks cool on the previews. That book actually came out a while ago. It was like back in 2021. So that looks like to be kind of a single issue, but that'll be on the Omega. I also picked that up today this week from the shop. So those are the books. Let's go ahead and then flip back over to our main cam and talk about our reviews for the week. So today, again, 10 as always. Before we jump in, like to put that disclaimer out there. I spoil the hell out of all these books. So if you don't want to hear any spoilers in your review, this is not going to be the podcast for you. I just don't know how to do it any other way. So keep that in mind. For these reviews, I try to catch you up on the story, where things are at for now, talk about the story itself, where I think it's all headed, whether I think it's a good time for you to jump in, and then we'll just show off a little bit of the art at the end, and we'll go into sequential order, book by book, as I have it listed here. And then after that, we'll close out with the polls for next week, and I'll have you guys on your way. So let's start off with these books. In this order, we have The Ultimates, number 13, Exquisite Corpses, number 2, Absolute Flash, number 4, Iron Man, number 9, Bug Wars, number 5, Zatanna, number 5, Avengers 27, The New Gods, number 7, G.I. Joe, number 8, and then West Coast Avengers, number 8. So those will be the books. We'll go ahead and review them in that order. Let's start off with the Ultimates here. I saved this book for last, and the reason I did that is I was hoping that this was going to be my pick of the week. And I check out the Discovery, and then I try to put all my books in kind of that reading descending order. So the perceived best books are going to be towards the end, but I don't always necessarily agree with Lee. And this is another instance where I did not. So I voted this a 4. Lee gave it a 4.5. For me, this book, the cover art, let's just talk on that real quick. I like it a lot. It's so simplistic for the audio listeners. It's literally like in a whiteboard Sharpie marker. Iron Lad is writing on the board in blue, whiteboard marker, Ultimates 3.0. And he's like finishing the O with the marker, and you can see like his hand obviously in the Iron Man suit. And that's all it is. It's just a white background on top of it. And it's so simplistic and kind of boring, but I kind of love it. I wonder if this is like sacrilege in the comic book art space of like you just took like a pretty dull reality thing and then suddenly made it into a comic book art. Like, how are you going to sell this cover? But to me, I like the simplicity a lot. It's not the cover of the week because of it, but I do just enjoy the simplicity of something like this from time to time. So for me, Ultimates gets away with it. But the book itself goes a different place than I was expecting, especially with how high of a score that this book received. So a lot of what we're talking about here is a reboot for the Ultimates, but not a reboot in like different characters and things like that. It's a reboot in the ethos of what the Ultimates stands for. And they make it clear that it's not a team, it's not a league, it's not a corporation, it's not anything like that. It's a movement, is what they decide. And so each of the heroes decides in their own way that they're going to help expand the ideas of the Ultimates in teaching. And in teaching in ways that they can get more people involved, because clearly themselves alone cannot withstand the Council, Hulk, and the Maker that's coming in 6 months at this point. So they go out and they recruit from everywhere. You got Luke Cage in the prisons. He's doing like true prison reform, teaching politics, teaching policy, getting their bodies right, getting their minds right. Doom's teaching science. Iron Lad's coming in and answering questions about who the Ultimates are. You have Captain America as he's fighting off Red Skull, trying to turn those bigoted people and the followers of Red Skull, into disciples, I guess, of the Ultimates. You had Captain Marvel going out to like other parts of the world, trying to recruit people as well. And that's the movement, trying to get more everyday people to be heroes and prepare for the Maker who's going to come in about 6 months. And that's the whole book, is just breaking all that down. If there was a B plot, I'd say the B plot here is it was revealed in the last issue that Wasp is actually working for the other side, so she's a bit of a traitor, and she shrinks down multiple times to spy in on Iron Lad and all the things that they're doing, and reporting that back more than likely to the Hand, which is Nick Fury, but basically the hand of the Council. So that Nick Fury reports back to Hulk, reports back to Kingpin, and then the Eurasia region for the Ultimate Wolverine. So like Magic, Colossus, Omega Red. So those are all basically the understudies of the Maker, and Wasp is reporting all that stuff back. But it's only just hinted at, and you just know that a lot from the previous issue. You wouldn't know that if you were reading through this. But that's the story in a gist of, we have this new movement, and now this is a good clean launching pad. Probably for the next 6 months, it's going to be the last arc of this, and then the Maker will arrive, and then everything that kind of falls out from there. So is it the time to jump in? I'd actually would say yes, just because it is a soft reboot, if you will, on how the Ultimates plan on going through everything. But you are going to miss the context of the failed attempts leading up to this point. So bear that in mind. But yeah, they talk about the characters, the folks that are in play. I think it would be totally fine. If you're looking for an entry point, this would likely be it. So with that, let's go ahead and show off the art. Really good here, similar to what the Ultimates has been in the past. I'd say more of a classic Marvel style. It's more about the story than it is really the art doing the storytelling. But here you can see just across the world, people being curious about the Ultimates, rejecting kind of the mass media and the national coverage, and looking to seek out the Ultimates and what they have to say, and uncovering a bunch of, that's a pretty cool splash that you have right here, of almost like Odin talking down from the skies. Trying to uncover all the terrible things that are actually going on in the world that have been mostly covered up. And then towards the back end here, we start talking about the prison reform. I love the art design of Luke Cage in this book as well, kind of shackled up with the afro. Man, freaking dope. So yeah, it's a cool reboot. It makes a lot of sense. I'm interested to see where it all heads from here. I highly recommend this book of the Ultimate Universe. This is probably my favorite. Ultimate Spider-Man is crushing it as well, but if you've been listening, I'm not the biggest Spider-Man fan in the world. Don't hate Spider-Man by any stretch of the imagination. Really enjoy Miles Morales, but I'm not obsessed as Spider-Man fans can be. And so I love the Ultimates. Just feels like, okay, this is like the big bad that encompasses everything facing off against the Maker. So yeah, that's the Ultimates number 13. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.5. It was good, but for me, it was just talking through everything. It wasn't quite pushing it to the next level that I thought it warranted a 4.5. Certainly between a 4 and a 4.5, but it was more of a 4 for me. So next up here, we have Exquisite Corpses. So for this one, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.3. I thought a good follow-up from issue number 1, but very difficult to follow up from that. I mean, issue 1 was between a 4.5 and a 5. It was borderline a 5. It was probably the closest I've gotten to giving a 5 without giving a 5. It was that good. But now we come up with the issue and the concern of, how do we follow that, right? And we did a good job here. I think overall so this is Walsh and Tynion, and James Tynion I think is one of the best. He's certainly one of the go-to my book. But we get to a point now where we are well into the event. So if you missed the first one, it's this event of, I think it's like 13, the original colonies, basically. Each one of them has a governor equivalent, but it's the family that is running the whole country. So one of the 13, they each choose a champion, if you will, and I should really say that with like quote unquote, but that champion, they all put them into a battle royale arena-esque some small town in the middle of the country. They block it all off. They pay off the law enforcement there, and they just have those 13 kill each other in a battle royale, Hunger Games style of event, and the winner, that winning family, gets to rule for the next, they didn't mention it in this one, I think it's the next 5 or 10 years or 8 years, whatever the case may be. And so each family takes this event to varying degrees of seriousness. Some, like, this is absolutely what they want. They're vying for this. They seeked out a absolute killer mercenary that they think is going to win. Others just love like the sport and gambling on it and drinking and screwed up at this party, so they'll pick some crazy psychopath and just see whatever happens. They'll have different prop bets on the side. And so issue number 2 is the event is well underway. There was already first blood with one of the psychos being dead. We're introduced into a couple of more, and now they're mixing in with the civilians a little bit. So we have one civilian group are EMTs, and they meet the nurse Pete, who's one of the killers, and he's trying to explain the story as to why he's there on the scene, but the cops aren't, and they feel fishy about it, but they don't know what to believe because the civilians have no idea that this event is actually happening right now. So they could potentially be collateral damage, very dangerous situation. We have another a small section where it's like one of the gas stations in town, and one of these psycho killers shows up, and he's got like a knife, and you have one innocent bystander come in, and he just starts stabbing the hell out of the guy and like doing all the creepy weird psycho stuff and like talking to himself. This guy behind the counter like completely freaked out and mortified as to what's happened. But then one of the actual contenders or participants in the event, his name is Loverboy, he comes in and kills that guy. So that is the second death of the actual tournament that took place. And then you have it's Halloween night, so they're a boy and like a younger boy, it's like a teenager and a kid, they're out trick-or-treating, and they run into this other kid who's part of the killers. He's like kind of a Boy Scout. If you've been reading Hyde Street at all, it's almost like that kind of vibe. And so he's like, yeah, I want to go trick-or-treating too. He's like, where are your parents? And the guy just lies and basically says that, my aunt, she's drunk and passed out. And the guy, teenager, like, he doesn't know what's going on either. He's like, oh, why did I sign up for this? So they take him as well. Another dangerous kind of situation going on. So you got those elements basically happening. And then the fourth thing is the mom of, not the teenager, but of like the young boy that's out trick-or-treating. She's forced to work that evening, and this lady shows up, and she works at a car dealership to buy a car, but she's not actually there to buy a car. They leave like caches of weapons for all these different psychos so they can get their weapon of choice basically, and that assists them to go and kill. I think part of it is each year you get to select your champion, but then it's randomized what weapon that is given to you in like a drop zone that you get. So it's anywhere from like the most dangerous, like a gun or a knife or a bat or something like that, all the way down to like a rope. So it's like good luck if you draw that, and you don't have the right person equipped to be able to do something with that. So she, the woman that showed up to the town that's actually a participant, she's like trying to look for her cache, like weapons drop basically. So those are the events that take place all within this one book. It's like things are just unfolding. Now we have 2 dead out of the 12 or 13 or so that are competing. And yeah, that is the story thus far. I'm enjoying it. We'll flip to the artwork right here real quick. It is just gruesome and bloody, especially for like the murder scenes and things like that. So you have that element and kind of a horror-esque. Other than that, I'd say the art is just kind of like fine and serviceable. You have different tones of like a lot of this is taking place at night, but night is depicted in like these green, gray, almost like turquoise backgrounds. As it goes from scene to scene, it'll change like from dawn to evening. And that's basically how you know you're in a different scene. So that's kind of cool how that's done. But as far as the paneling itself, it's all like kind of pretty simple, plain Jane on that front. And a lot of the storytelling here is via text. But I'm enjoying it. I'm so interested to see where it goes. It just was a step down, but I still did give it a 4. But not quite as high as that first issue when we're introducing the concept and then all these killers as well. So that's Exquisite Corpses number 2. Next up here is The Absolute Flash, number 4. I'm enjoying this, but again, this is another one where I think the story is kind of settling down as far as the shock and awe of what's happening. So I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.1. So, pretty much on pace with what Lee had said. And we've gotten to the point where Wally, the Flash, is settling down in his power. So before experiment explosion happens, he's got these powers. He doesn't really understand what's going on. He's running away from, it's like a group of bounty hunters that are trying to capture him. In last issue, he just got away, and he got away with Grodd. And Grodd, rather than being a gorilla, is like this tiny little monkey. And so he was supposed to, Grodd, help bring him in. He's like part of these bounty hunters. But Wally and Grodd were able to communicate, and they started to bond, basically. And then Grodd turned against the bounty hunters and is now signing with Wally. So Wally and Grodd got away. Bounty hunters are trying to regroup. All the scientists and Wally's father, who's like head of security at the base where the experiments went awry and where the transformation took place. They're trying to figure out what exactly is happening. So, of course, the dad's pissed off. He wants to understand what's happening to his son. So he has the bounty hunters like go back and regroup, or but like still go after Wally. Like, don't go back to the base. Like, just get your stuff together and let's figure out where he's at. He goes back to the base and he meets up with a scientist there who isn't like the head one, but she was one of the assistants, is what it seems like. So it was Wally in the incident, and this other guy, Alan, was in the incident as well. But Alan looks like he died. And so the father's trying to figure out what exactly was Alan working on. And the assistant is talking about it. We were working on this government contract, but maybe we were doing a little bit more than we should have. It's like, I knew it. I knew you guys were up to some crazy BS. And she's like, well, honestly, what's done is done. We shouldn't be worried about that too much. But what we should be worried about is there are some other experiments that got out as well. And they show like these broken vials and glasses of like other creatures that somehow have escaped. So that's one part of the plot. The other part is Wally now and Grodd are on the run. They run into this guy. Turns out he has a homeless shelter. It's not like a creep or anything like that. It's legit. So he shows up and meets this girl, Linda. They seem to be like kind of like the love interest thing that could potentially happen, but it's really hot for some reason. And it's like abnormally hot. And so before going to bed, Grodd kind of slips out of Wally's backpack, and Wally's like, oh shit, I gotta follow him. He does. And Grodd keeps saying like hot, 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 like, and keeps going down into the sewer, and Wally follows him. And they turn the corner and they see the source of the heat. It's Heatwave himself, which is a villain. And that's the cliffhanger of like, now Wally's got to deal with all of this and see where all that goes. So yeah, I think we're at the point where we're settling into whatever this main plot is going to be, kind of like the standard comic book storytelling. You don't really get many Flash moments, and the art isn't nearly as insane as it has been in the previous issues. It's just kind of pretty standard. So that's where we're at with the book, and that's why I just came in with a 4 on this one, but leaks seem to agree as well. So we'll flip over to the art here so you guys can get some sense and some flavor. I'd say the Absolute Universe has been some of the most consistent, really high quality art. As a universal concept, it's different artists on this, but overall from the level of detail. So here we have kind of the desert scene with the bounty hunters trying to regroup. This is at the actual shelter while he's having conversations there. And then back at the lab trying to understand everything that happened here. And you got the full spread here of the vials that broke out and the different experiments that were released into the wild. And actually you can see down here in the bottom right, I didn't even realize it, it says Heatwave. There's the one called Project Wizard. Not sure what that's all about. Projects, it's like 6 X's. And then the last one here, Project Firestorm. Not sure what that's in reference to. Maybe for hardcore DC fans and Flash fans know exactly what that's about, but I don't. So I am interested to see what that is all about, and then we'll get to the final page here where we have Heatwave, and he's like almost like this lava magma monster with all this like flame and magma just hanging off of him and melting off of him, which is pretty cool. design. So yeah, that is Absolute Flash number 4. Again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.1. Then next up here we have is Iron Man number 9. This one I gave a 4. Lee gave it a 3.7. I think looking back, like I probably could have gotten away with giving it a 3.5. It is in between the two. But if you're new to the show, the channel, whatever the case may be, I am not the I should say I am a big Iron Man fan. And so I am partial to Iron Man kind of overall. And I think that probably did sway my opinion about it. So keep that in mind. I try to call out when there's like, yeah, this is my favorite character. So, you know, that's going to factor into the reviews. I am human after all. So that's probably a piece of it. The story itself is pretty confusing. We are in the midst of a double crossing type of scenario that's happening, and there are multiple players on the field. So as you can see from the title here, it's One World Under Doom is the event that we're in. So this is a part of it. And Iron Man, Tony Stark, he's trying to figure out how he can infiltrate Latveria, you know, Doctor Doom's country, while selling weapons, but still doing it in disguise. So his whole thing is like, I'm going to sell weapons to Latveria, but somehow we're going to make sure that those weapons get in the hands of the rebels, and they're going to help fight the fight to bring down Doctor Doom and his whole empire. That was kind of the goal. And so he's playing both sides of this, talking to Doom's people like Victorious and a couple others, and trying to win them over, but also be, you know, coy about it, because that's his actual plan, is to bring down, of course, Doctor Doom. And so that plot and seed has been planted. The other thing that's happening is you have the Red Widow, so not the Black Widow, but the Red Widow, who's captured some folks that are part of Latveria and part of S.H.I.E.L.D. and trying to figure out what's all going on there. This is where it gets really confusing, because I'm not really sure what side Red Widow is on. But then Black Widow shows up with Bucky as like the Winter Soldier, and they kind of attack and break up this whole hostage situation. But as that happens, there's this big terrorist attack that takes place. This is in Latveria as well. So now it looks as though Red Widow and her cohort had something to do with it, even though it was actually looks like it could have potentially just been Tony's weapons that fell into the wrong hands. By going to this terrorist group, actually ended up being a lot of collateral damage to a bunch of civilians, and it basically comes to the point that Tony's plan didn't work at all. You had innocent people that died. The weapons are now in the wrong hands, and at the end of the day, now he's just selling weapons to Victor Von Doom. So it's like a colossal failure kind of across the board. Black Widow's really pissed off about it, because she said, Tony, like, this is what was going to happen. And then I think they're starting to realize that it has something to do with Tony's suit. So if you remember a few issues back, Wanda said his suit is corrupted, and there's like some sort of dark magic involved. So that's why he can't fully power up, and he's using like this lower powered suit. And that may, you know, be influencing Tony's poor decision making, and they have to figure out, you know, what to do from here. So that is kind of the story in a nutshell. I don't think it's the time to jump into this at all. This is part number 4 of this, so you're gonna have to wait a little bit. Excuse me, but I would say, oh sorry, and I don't think I said anything for the other two. Exquisite Corpses, you can jump into that one. Try to get number 1 though. That's phenomenal. And then for Absolute Flash number 4. If you can start at the beginning, I think you'd be fine to jump in this one too, because it gives a good synopsis of where we're at. But for Iron Man number 9, it's not the time. It's just not the time. So it's confusing. It's weird, but I do like the art. I like Iron Man a lot. I like seeing kind of the fall towards the end. Was like, okay, that all makes sense. That none of this really worked out as intended. But what side everyone's on, from Black Widow to Red Widow to now Iron Man. And then at the very end, you find out that the one working with Tony from the inside, Visht, who's like a Latvian, but doesn't like Doom, and so he was the one that basically kind of set up the initial connections. He's kind of gone rogue a little bit, and he is taking it upon himself on, here's how I'm going to go about stopping Doom,
but by doing so, he's taking it too far. He's going over the line, and it looks like, a lot of innocent people could potentially be in danger, and their lives are on the line. So now they're probably going to have to stop him and be like, hey, this is not the way to go about taking down Doom. So, yeah, that is the book in a nutshell. Let's go ahead and walk through some of the art. I do like the art a lot for this Iron Man. I think they're doing a really good job from the creative team. And this one actually does a really nice balance of both the storytelling and also the artwork itself. The text bubbles are a lot larger, but it's like they're trying to use high vocab, but sometimes there's high vocab, sometimes it's not. Really cool full spread that we have here. So this is basically the terrorist attack that took place, and then all the chaos that ensued afterwards, basically. So nice spread that you have here. Iron Man, of course, with this crazy awesome magical sword. That's pretty dope. And then towards the very end here is where we have Vish basically like take matter into his own hands and says like it kills one of the Latvians, and he's gonna go about taking down Doom his own way. He actually absorbs some of Iron Man's powers and like the evil corruption that's within the suit, and he's going to use that to help power him up so he can go after Doom. So, yeah, that is Iron Man number 9. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.7. Then next up here we have Bug Wars number 5. And apologies, guys, it's early Saturday morning. I wasn't able to read it any earlier, and I got the books on Thursday, so I ended up reading like 8 books yesterday. But I woke up early so that way we could get this all posted, ready to go for you guys. But then we have Bug Wars number 5. So this book is freaking awesome. I gave it a 4.5. Lee gave it a 4.4. Incredible book. Not the book of the week, though, believe it or not. I was waffling between this and another one. So it's up there. Really, really high quality across the board. We're in the point of the story where I think there's only a 6-parter, unfortunately. So if I flip over, yeah, there's just one more after this, which is such a bummer. I want this to just keep going and going and going. But we get to the point now where Sydney, not Sid, has become the world stopper. So how does that all take place? Well, Sydney arrives to the Ferns where all the spider people are, and he wants to learn more about the amulet. And the spider lady witch up there is like, hey, we brought you here to kill you so we can take the amulet ourselves. But if you really want to figure it out, you can go through these trials. And if you're worthy, we'll allow you to pass, basically. So Sydney goes through these trials, and it's basically like walking through like a cavern with a whole bunch of spider eggs in it, and like all these toxins and venoms, and all these spiders keep attacking him, and it feels like it's like taking forever and ever and ever for him to get through. And then finally, I don't know if he just starts believing or whatever, but he's just fighting, and he feels as though he's unstoppable. And then now some of these ancient spiders start coming down, and like they have these golden webs, and this is where it gets into like some of the fantasy stuff. Not like the whole thing is in fantasy already, but this is the part where things get really weird. And they wrap him up in this golden web, and are like, why do you think like you deserve the truth? And he's like, well, my father held the amulet before, I can do it as well. And he comes to realize the point of the world stopper is actually not to be part of the bugs. It's actually to keep the bugs in line and to prevent war. So there are like trillions of bugs out there, like trillions upon, like he said, whatever the number is. So for each human, it's like 1 million plus bugs. And so if they really wanted to unite together, the bugs could rule the whole planet. And it's the world stopper's job to basically keep that balance by killing off the bugs. Was the realization. And so as he comes to that realization, the spiders, they're like, are you sure that you can do this? And then you hear a voice say, of course he can. And he turns, and it's his dad. He sees his father, like, I don't know if it's in a vision or if it actually is his father, or it's something to do with the amulet. He's like, of course he can, he's a Slaymaker or whatever the last name is. And I was like, dang, this is pretty dope. So sure enough, he makes it through the trials. He comes back in like this armor, and now he is the world stopper. So that's a big piece of it. The other part of the story here is there are these different sects of bugs, right? There are 6 in total, and they all meet up at this basically like war temple type deal, which is the dying corpse of like a dog. But that's where they all meet up and they decide what they're going to do about Sid. So Sid is his brother. He's the one spraying a whole bunch of bug spray throughout and then also mowing the lawns too. And they're like, all right, we're going to go after him. So 5 of the 6 agree. The one that doesn't agree are the spiders, because they know deep down, like, we kind of need to have balance. We can't just have this go crazy. But the other ones are just thirsty for blood. They want to kill, 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 so that way they can take over the lawn and then, take over beyond from there. So they decide that they're going to go after Sid. And then Sid and his mom, they're reporting that their brother Sidney and son is missing to the cops. And Sid loses his mind. He's like, I know it's these bugs that did it. Pulls out the lawnmower and then he starts mowing. So, now we're coming up to like the conclusion here and I'm sad about it. I want to keep reading this stuff. It is so cool. The initial premise is like Mad Max meets like A Bug's Life is the best way to describe it. And we are full on Mad Max at this point, which is awesome. And it's interesting. It's also like a little bit of Lord of the Rings as well, with like these different kingdoms and these different sects of like the ants, the mites, the beetles, the spiders. They all have like their different tribes, and then having these tribe leaders and deciding what exactly they're going to do. So yeah, that's Bug Wars number 5. Really, really, really enjoy it. I highly recommend it. I don't think it's the time to jump in because we're so close to the end, but when it comes out in trade, you better get the trade. It is so good. Everything I think has been like a 4.5. Maybe one book has been a 4. So high quality. We'll go through the art real quick. Excellent as well here. Just ultra violent. Oh, the one thing I forgot to mention, kind of a smaller piece, but the spider witch that brought him there and his pet beetle, they are surrounded by a bunch of spiders, and they just kind of fight them off. And then Sidney rejoins them towards the end. But this is Sidney about to go on to his journey. He's fighting through. You have these ancient spiders coming down with the golden webs. And then here's where he comes to that realization that he needs to be the world stopper. There's his father. And then we have back in the real world with Sid going after and trying to raise and mow all of the mites. And then finally, Sidney as the world breaker defending the beetle and the spider that helped him out in the first place, getting us ready for the final battle. Incredible stuff. So good. Then next up, we have Zatanna, number 5. I gave this one a 4.5. Lee gave it a 4.4. Now, the reason I gave this a 4.5 has really nothing to do with the story. The story is fine, serviceable. This 100% is all about the art. The art in this book is phenomenal, some of the best that I've ever seen. It undoubtedly is the interior art of the week. It might even be the cover of the week too. Like, look at the cover of that. It's so incredible. We are at the point now where Zatanna has ripped out the sword of from within her chest that she's been trying to get out, this magical sword that's like dampening her powers. But now she's like sucked into the sword and has to fight whatever this corruption is within. Basically find out that the sword is just spewing a whole bunch of lies, and that's all it's been doing. And it's different elements of lies, right? So it goes into a point where she sees her mother, but her mother's not actually alive, so she can't like stay in that realm. The lie that showed Clayface earlier, I think that was like issue number 2. All these different spells and trying to like force you to stay locked in a place and like corrupt. She finally breaks through that, and then at the very end we have the Lady White. She is relinquished from her spell, so she was under a spell by some sort of demon in this realm as well. And she's relinquished from that from a different sorceress who were introduced in this book towards the beginning, and that I guess is probably going to lead to the final fight into the next issue. So that's the story. You don't really need the story. It's all about the art here. So this is the point. If you're an audio listener, definitely flip over to the video so you can see all this. Now look at like the paneling that's done in between here. So you have the shattered like broken glass into mirrors, but each large chunk of the glass is like a really nice awesome scene. Goes through her childhood and how tortured that was. This is the sorceress towards the end that ends up freeing the Lady White. Like, look at this full spread. Are you freaking kidding me? Like, how do you even begin to draw something like this? It's just insane. So, again, shattered mirror and broken glass, different fragments. It's nuts. So, this is about, I believe, the death of her father, like all these painful moments in her life. And these are the lies that are being, displayed by the sword. So the art just doesn't stop here, from just the different color pops and how intricate it is, and how fantastical. Then it goes from here to this, which is almost like a blueprint. So it's like a white background with the little blue ink, and it looks like it's mostly sketched. But Zatanna's like falling through and like jumping over the pages and falling through another portal. Like, what are we talking about here? That's just an ad. But it's just so incredibly good. Zatanna heading towards the lighthouse. I think the next part is where she runs into her mother, starts talking there, but her mother's not actually there, so she just, has a quick little to do with her, heads to the top of the lighthouse where she sees the source of all of it and is able to defeat it, and then back to the real world with the Lady White, and the realization that she's no longer under his spell, and then now it's the new sorceress that has freed her, and that's setting up basically the big bad here. So it is just, man, so freaking good. My gosh. So to be concluded here in like reverse as well, so I wonder if that has anything to do with it, but goodness gracious, all about the art. Such a good book. If you're here for the art, this is the book. This is it. Man, excellent stuff. So who is the author on this? So Campbell is the writer and the artist as well. So shout out to Jamal Campbell. My goodness, shout out. All right, next up here is the Avengers 27. So I gave this one a 4. Lee gave it a 3.8. I could see it being lesser than. It was fine. It's between a 3.5 and a 4 for sure. So we have towards the tail end of this part here, part number 3 of the Masters of Evil. Sam Wilson was hurt in a fight against Dr. Doom. He's sent back up to the Impossible City. When he's up there, the Masters of Evil attack, and it's like a league of like 5 of them. So they immobilize the ship. They take all the systems down, but the ship is basically able to create like an AI conduit. And so he did that right before the ship went down. And from there, he can mold himself into some armor that Captain America has been wearing, Sam Wilson. And slowly he's been picking off, some of these members of the Masters of Evil. So 2 are already down. We've got 3 more to go. And T'Challa, Black Panther, was inside of the Tesseract. There's like a prison inside of it. He liberated that whole prison for several months. And now he finally came out. But that's inside the Impossible City. So when he jumps out of that, obviously sees this fight that's taking place with Captain America. So, of course, Black Panther comes in to help. And the fight is basically on for these 2. And they take on 2 of the remaining folks. I forget. It's Exterminatrix. And who is the other one that he takes on? Is it Hyde? Hyde is who he takes down as well. So a lot of the book is the actual fight itself. And then we only have 1 remaining. So that's the Madcap. And one of Madcap's, I don't know if it's like his disciples or whatever the case is, but he's like, what are you going to do now? And he's like, don't worry. I predicted this whole thing. I knew it was going to be Sam Wilson that we would have to fight in the first place. He doesn't mention anything about knowing about the Black Panther or not, so I don't know if he did, but it's like, I have them exactly where I want them. Each one of the other Masters of Evil, we knew that we weren't going to work together as a team, but I can take bits and pieces from their abilities and then pair them all together, and he unites them together in like this crazy suit of armor, and now he's going to be the big bad that both Captain America and Black Panther have to go after. So that is the story in kind of a nutshell. The art here, fine, serviceable. It's standard Marvel. I don't think anything too crazy that you have going on here. But But a cool story. Nice little, progress that we have going here. This has been going on, nicely. Nothing too crazy, nothing over the top, but I think a very serviceable story in the Avengers and what's happening. I would have liked this to be more Doom focused, but it's just not, which is fine. So you have to get your Doom, one world under Doom fix somewhere else, and then where Madcap turns into basically an amalgamation of all the other Masters of Evil members in one. So yeah, interested to see where the next one heads. I don't think it's the time to jump in quite yet. Probably won't be the next issue. It'll probably be the issue after that, would be my guess. So yeah, that is Avengers 27. I gave it a 4. League gave it a 3.8. Then we have the New Gods, number 7. And so we have 3 more books, including this one. This one was good. I think Lee was a lot higher on it than I was. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.5. I mean, for me, this isn't my favorite from Rom V. It's just not. And I think it's tough because it's characters I'm not familiar with. It's like this huge cosmic level thing that's happening. New Genesis has fallen, which is like this planet or this world where these gods are from in the first place. That's what we've been talking about leading up to this point. And there's this child that is a weapon that has been born on Earth that has something to do with the prophecy that could either destroy and replace the High Father, which is part of the New Gods, part of this New Genesis foreign, planet and world, or he could be the one to save it. It's like it's tough to tell what exactly is going to happen there. But the issue itself, we have the refugees of New Genesis crash land onto Earth. The Justice League is basically the ones able to slow down the ship, catch it, and make sure that it settles without any civilian casualties. So Superman helps out, the Lanterns help out a whole bunch. But once that happens, then it's the Department of something, abnormal stuff. The Department of... what is it called? The DEO, Department of Extra Normal. They are like, hey, this falls under our jurisdiction because this is obviously pretty weird. We got these aliens that crash landed. Justice League is like, hey, we just helped save them. We can take them. And well, the DEO is like, well, are you going to put them on your Infinity Watchtower? You don't even have enough room up there. And then Green Lantern's like, hey, I'll just create an invisible shelter for them, so at least they have some place to stay, and we can figure this all out. And Justice League, I think eventually is like, we can probably just leave them with the DEO, that'd be fine, or we can work on this jointly, whatever the case may be. So a lot of political stuff there. Now we're still trying to figure out this child, what it's all about, the weapon, and that'll be figured out soon. But at the same time, it looks like someone else, this other faction on Earth, is still going after the weapon and slowly trying to pick off members of the DEO and then go after the child. So that's the crux of the story, really, and what it's all about. I think Rom V gets a little into his Duffy for me, and I'm not really understanding where it's going. Sometimes I feel like with Rom V, you do have to read a couple books, but rarely. So I don't know. It's just not quite hitting for me as I hoped that it would, which is fine. To each their own. But the art here is phenomenal. It's been phenomenal. It continues to be. So this is basically the League when they realize that the ship is crash landing. This is the ship itself, crash landing. And then the argument ensues on what exactly to do with these folks. So you have the DEO arguing with Superman. And then you have some fighting breaking out of, who is actually in charge here. Green Lantern deciding we can support these refugees here. That's an advertisement. And then towards the end here, trying to figure out what exactly the child is meant to be for and going to do for them. And then discussion here. Actually, this is the child and Orion, who was sent out to actually kill the child in the first place, having some heart-to-heart towards the end. So, it's a interesting book. Not the time to jump in at all. I think we're kind of coming towards the end here. I think you have 10 or so issues in this one. But yeah, I've enjoyed, the art is excellent, but the story itself, there are bits and pieces where I'm not fully understanding what's happening, to be honest. So that's my review of the New Gods. Then we have G.I. Joe number 8. This is the first one I read for this week. I liked this one a lot. We have a bit of a reset here, so this is actually for sure going to be a really good one to jump into. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.2. Definitely in between the 4 to 4.5 range on this one. So with this reset here, and we actually had it from the previous issue, but you still are in that soft reset here as well. We have the Joes training nonstop. They're just trying to stay prepared to go after Cobra, to go after Destro, and whatever else may be out there in the Energon universe, like Decepticons and Autobots as well. Destro and Cobra Commander are wanting to experiment more on some Transformers, so they want to find a live one, whether it be Autobot or Decepticon. I don't think they really realize or understand that there's a difference at this point, but that's what they want to do, is basically hunt down a real one that's alive. Clutch on the Joe's side has an Autobot that turned into a Jeep, so he's like hiding it from the rest of the crew inside the base, and so we'll figure out what all happens there. But the back half of the book is all about Baroness. Baroness is looking for some R&R. She needs some alone time, so she flies out to Paris, but Duke doesn't let her go out alone because he just doesn't trust her, basically. So he sends her out with Anastasia as well. And so Anastasia's on her tail. Baroness tries to lose her. Of course, that doesn't happen for too long because they're all like these crazy international spies and assets and things. And Baroness is at like some sort of cafe there. Across the way, she sees her parents. I guess they go on this date once a year. So that's why she wanted to go there, just to see them being happy. But of course, shenanigans start to happen. A bunch of these raven birds start attacking everyone, including them. And so Baroness is like, save my parents. I'll try to see what's going on. And the villain reveals himself. It's this guy Raptor, who I guess controls these birds and is now going after them. So that's the cliffhanger that we're left off on. So again, good, serviceable comic book. I enjoyed it. The art here, decent. I feel like a lot of G.I. Joe and anything in the Energon universe has been about like the shock. You don't get much of that here. This is more of like the reset, like I described. So this is on Paris with Anastasia, goes out to see the parents and everything like that. The birds start attacking, of course, and then towards the end, that is when Raptor is revealed. I think earlier on, skipping through it pretty quickly, you see the Autobot with Clutch. So Cobra deciding what they're going to do next, and then Clutch with the Autobot trying to figure out what to do with the Jeep next. Takes place a little bit earlier here. But yeah, most of the book is about Baroness and Anastasia as well. So good book. I think it's actually a great time to jump in. You'd be totally fine here if you're interested in G.I. Joe. I would say, me, I'm in early 30s. G.I. Joe was a little before my time on, growing up with the cartoons and things like that. So for me, I was not super interested to start, but the Energon universe and the way that it's written is just so incredibly good. I would recommend it. Just jump in and see whether or not this would be something you're interested in. I've read all the other offshoots. So I read Cobra, I read Duke, I read Destro, Scarlet, all of them, and they've all been really good. Anything Energon universe, I'm pretty much automatically in. The one I haven't is the Invincible Beast, and that one has been for the first 2 books on Picks of the Week, so I'm almost regretting not picking that one up. I'll probably get that in a trade, would be my guess, but that's also part of the Energon universe as well. So Energon has been the most consistent between that and Absolute as the 2 best things, but on the Image side of things, it's the Energon universe for sure. So anyways, that is G.I. Joe number 8. Again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.2. And if you notice, I haven't said comic of the week. That's because I unintentionally, but I still did happen to save it for the end. I'm actually randomly going with West Coast Avengers. I don't know what it is about this book, but I loved it. I thought it was so freaking good. If you flip over to League, I gave it 4.5. We gave it a 4.1. I thought that this book was incredible. So you have two of my favorites here. So for bad guys, the two that I love the most are Magneto and Ultron. Those are my two favorites. And then I already told you I like Tony Stark a lot, and Iron Man. So you get both Iron Man and Ultron in this. Obviously, my bias is going to show, but it is an awesome fight scene and battle that you have throughout this. The whole point of this is Ultron has split himself up millions upon millions of times, and basically came up with like what are the most ideal versions of Ultron. Left, I think it was like 6 or 8 of them, and some of these different Ultrons have been scattered throughout. So they basically came to the point of like these are the best versions of ourselves. So one has joined the West Coast Avengers, basically found out that, and the West Coast Avengers, the whole project is a almost like a work release or prison reform type deal. So it'll take villains and then try to turn them into heroes, including this Ultron. But a couple issues back, found out that, or Ultron did anyways, that there was a failsafe in case Ultron went evil and he feels betrayed and he's actually having like some human emotions about it. And so he's off doing his thing. But there are multiple Ultrons out there. So there's this cultist Ultron that's trying to bring humans in and fuse humans with Ultron, which seems dangerous and weird and odd, but a lot of the time it's like people that are terminally ill that have nowhere else to turn, and by fusing they can, either still have a second life or provide a life force to help build whatever this project is. And it's a cult, so people are falling for it, and so on and so forth. Then in the last issue, we were introduced to Scorched Ultron, and this Ultron is freaking insane. So he decided that he was just going to fly into the sun, and he just baked in the sun for like years, I guess. Came out, and of course his brain's a little screwed up now, and it's like, you know what? I think the only way to solve this is to destroy all of humanity. It's like, yeah, that sounds like the Ultron we all know. So he comes down to Earth and he sees what the cultist Ultron is doing, and he's like, this is freaking unacceptable. You're going to have us bond with these flesh beings? Absolutely not. So he goes and he starts destroying the hell out of it. That was towards the end of the last issue in number 7, and number 8 is the continuation of that. So the fight is on. This Ultron completely destroys and kills the cultist Ultron, holding up his head with like his spine dripping of like all the ooze and pus or whatever that's part of Ultron. Ridiculously insane, over the top. I'm loving it. All the West Coast Avengers, they have to retreat basically. They're trying to fight off this Ultron. He's way too powerful. A bunch of civilians are dying left, right, and center. Like, it's a horrible, horrible mass casualty type of conflict thing, and this Ultron is just popping off. So he does this thing where he has like this leash, and like he uses it as a whip, and it grabbed onto, I think it was War Machine's boot, and it completely corrupted all the technology. So his boot stopped working, and he's not able to use his jetpack. So like that's a pretty cool ability that he's been using. And it basically looks like the West Coast Avengers are down and out. Like they don't know what the hell they're going to do, and they have to regroup at this point. It's a majority of the issue. Incredible stuff. Then the other part of the issue is you have one of the work release members, Killer Watt. He's back in jail, but he's in jail with Flag Smasher, who was from the earlier issues, and Flag Smasher gets him in prison and corrals him and is like, hey, I gotta show you something. And he shows his dad, and there's like a sniper pointed right at him. It's like, if you don't do what we say, we're gonna kill your dad. So obviously Killer Watt doesn't want that to happen, and so it's like, all right, well, what do you want me to do? It's like, take this USB. When you get released and you go rejoin the West Coast Avengers, you plug this into Iron Man's system, and I assume it's going to be some sort of corruption thing. So now, gun to his head, what is Killer Watt going to do? And he goes and flies off, and that's basically the cliffhanger on what is he going to do too, to either help or deter. Is he going to fall back to his old ways, think about himself? Is he just going to communicate like this is what's happening? Usually that's all it takes in these comic books, like, come on. But man, it is an incredible book, man. Enjoying the hell out of it. So obviously 4.5. Again, I'm very partial on this. I looked at it. I voted it Comic of the Week. It was, nobody voted for this. Not a single person except for me. So that's my take. And I'm sticking with it. And at first I was like, between this and Bug Wars, should I do Bug Wars? Like, some people like it. follow the crowd. I'm like, no, go with your gut, dude. You're loving this stuff, so do it. Like, look at this page. Look at this art here. Are you kidding me? You have Ultron himself, the Scorched version, holding the freaking spinal cord and head of the cultist one. Like, are you kidding? How dope is that? My gosh. So here is where you have like this chain with like the corruption to the boot. So they're like down and out, fighting taking place in the streets. Him here again holding the skull. Oh, I realize you can't see kind of with the lighting here. Oh, that's much better. Holding the skull of the cultist Ultron as well. Like, it is just insane and crazy stuff. This is the good Ultron that's trying to fight the fight against the Scorched version. I'm just enjoying the hell out of it. It's incredible stuff. We had Wonder Man. He has the chain around his neck, and then the Scorched Ultron like charges up Wonder Man, throws him down to the ground, and it creates a bomb that like explodes, destroys all of like the cultist church, and then all that comes crumbling down. Mass casualties because of that event. It's like freaking insane. And then we have towards the end here with Killer Watt, basically being threatened and blackmailed of like, do this or else your father's gonna die, and he heads out on the work release. So, and then here's the tease for next issue. Such good stuff, man. Such good stuff. West Coast Avengers number 8. That's my comic of the week, and I'm sticking with it. So those are our books. Those are the reviews. Let's go ahead and go from the top. Give you the list again so you know. We had Ultimates number 13, Exquisite Corpses number 2, Absolute Flash number 4, Iron Man number 9, Bug Wars number 5, Zatanna number 5, The Avengers 27, The New Gods number 7, G.I. Joe number 8, and West Coast Avengers number 8. So, I even love the cover on this too. With Spider-Woman, this is inside of the cultists with all their wings. Cool stuff. Cool stuff. Alrighty, so with that, let us go ahead and flip over to the our polls for next week. Locked and loaded for those picks. Got them queued up here. Flipping over to the screen. This, I hope, is the last big week that I will have. 19 books here. That's a whole bunch, folks. So I'm hoping this is the last one that's north of 15. But TBD. So we have Absolute Martian Manhunter number 4. That should be great. Absolute Wonder Woman should be great. Dark Honor number 2. Doom Academy number 5. I've been enjoying Doom Academy a lot, so looking forward to that. Green Lantern Dark number 5. I believe that is the conclusion. Huck Big Bad World number 2. Hyde Street number 7. Incredible Hulk 26. Justice League Unlimited number 8. Miles Morales Spider-Man 34. That'll be a backlog. Minor Arcana number 8. Peacemaker Presents The Vigilante Eagerly Double Feature number 4. Always a mouthful. I think that is the conclusion for that. The Rockefellers number 6. Seasons number 5, I believe, is the conclusion. Ultimate Spider-Man number 18. Uncanny X-Men number 16. That may be the last one of that one, but that'll be a backlog anyways. Void Rivals number 20. We're Taking Everyone Down With Us number 4. It's not towards the end, but I think that's like a lot shorter series than I thought it was going to be. And then X-Men 136. So, that's weird. It's like a Phantasma edition. I don't know if that's actually going to show up or not. We'll see. Because my actual X-Men is not on 136. So maybe that shows up, maybe not. It's weird special edition 2025 release. I don't know. It's on the list, but it actually may not show up. We'll have to see. So those are the books. Those are the polls. Yeah, looking forward to next week. Obviously, 2 absolutes. That's going to be awesome. You have an ultimate in there. That's going to be awesome. And then some other books that I'm looking forward to as well. So, yeah, that is that. I think we can go ahead and close it out. I want to thank you guys again for tuning in. Really appreciate it. If you're on YouTube, Hopefully you like the format and the visuals, and let me know in the comments if there's anything else you'd like to see. If there's ways you'd like me to present this a little differently. Happy to take in any feedback. All the socials and everything are all in the descriptions, but saturdaymorningcbreview@gmail.com if you want to send in an email and let me know tips, tricks, things that you like about the show, things you hate about the show, so on and so forth. And then for next week, I will probably do an Omega run. That is what I'm hoping. Probably just do one, and then we'll have our standard Saturday issue as well. For those that don't know, the Omega run is just the backlog that I'm trying to work my way through. So I'll try to read, 10 or so. That way we're working towards the backlog while still staying on top of the current stuff as well. So that is that. I think we'll go ahead and close it out. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Go, 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 go.
This has been a DMW production. Thanks for stopping by.